Hi, another video. Just working my way through the electrics. Been stripping down this mirror just to test the motor before I start getting into the wiring in the engine. Well, sorry, under the dash. I've had the door panel off. This was a sort of shoddy, sort of three lots of joins, basically. Not very nice. I got rid of that. I've had the door panel off, got rid of that. The rest of the wiring looks okay. So basically, to get the mirror off, I'm just trying to think. So basically, you can see the back of that one's been glued on. So you pop the mirror off, so you tilt it back and pop the mirror off. The mirror comes off. And then, let me show you the other bit. What you're left with is sort of that affair. Like that. I've actually just bust this apart just to test the motor. I think what you're meant to do is drill out these rivets to take that off, and then you can get to these three screws. There's three screws there that hold it onto the frame, sort of that way. As far as checking the wiring goes, I believe the yellow and white one are one direction, like the band, and the blue and black are another direction. So if you sort of switch the polarities around, this one moves one way, and then switch it the other way, moves the other way. So that one works. That's sort of that one, sort of that tilting. This tilting is the yellow and white, and that just sort of clicks and does nothing. It's got a little crack in the wiring there, but I've checked the continuity, the wiring's okay. So that motor doesn't work. That's your heated, the brown and green are heated. So there may be something wrong with the wiring to it, but definitely that motor doesn't work. So I think maybe the black and blue, now I've cleaned it up and worked it a bit, maybe that will actually work when I put it back together. I'm not too fussed about it, but I think I'll just keep an eye out for another mirror. I think people say 944 ones are the same, but apparently not, some of the wiring is not the same. So that wasn't too difficult. So at least I know I need a motor, but you can move it manually anyway. To get the mirror off, I can't move it now. Yeah, to get it off, because I've tightened the pin up, you sort of twist the mirror out. There's a screw there. That little rivet there at the back. This was really wobbly. It's quite a faff to take. So if you turn the mirror sort of forwards, there's a screw straight down there. It goes into a socket in the door and holds it down. It's a bugger to do. If I would have known how it went together when I had the door panel off, I would have put some glue in it and with it tightened up so it stays, because it shuffles about. So I've basically made a longer screw so I can put the screw in a bit longer so I can get it into it easier, because otherwise it drops down in the casing and you can't get the screw in. So I can't turn it now because I've tightened this pivot here was wobbling loads. And get the light on the job. There's a little pin there. Doesn't seem to be an Allen key, just seems to be like a pin. I tap that in and it's stiffened up quite a lot now, which is I'm not bothered about, which is what I want really. I don't need to take it off again now. So there's your wiring. It's a bit dark in here today. There's your wiring there. That's your plug. One of these connections was pulling out a bit. So there are all your connections there. It's a bit tight, but I will clean them up a bit more because they look a bit corroded. But yeah, it looks like there should be something in there, in the middle. Maybe some kind of sprung-loaded pin or something, but I don't want to butcher it too much because I don't want to snap it and knacker it up. I may end up buying a whole new mirror, you never know. But it looks like there has been threads in there. So whether there's a grub screw in there that you tighten up, which gives it a bit of resistance, which is probably sounds a bit more feasible. But as it is, I don't need to take this off again. If I get another mirror, it'll have the other plug on it, or I can connect the wires, so I'll just keep an eye out for another motor. I think the early ones are different to the later ones. But I just wanted to know, I'm not too fussed about the electric mirror. I might not sort it until I find one at a decent price. I'm not paying 100 quid for a mirror motor. Once it's set, I'm happy with it, it's set, that's it. As long as it don't move about, which it won't do. It's got a bit of stiffness on it, and now this is tightened up, it can't flop about. I just want to try and work through it, so I know I need to look out for a mirror motor at some point. I have got my brake light switches. It's a bit cold today, a bit cold and rainy and nasty. I'm a bit cold. I've been doing some painting today, so I can't have my heater on right next to the paint because I just don't want to create any dust, so that's just drying off now. So I've had this inside this afternoon to keep it dry because it just gets so wet and condensation, even though it doesn't seems pretty dry inside, but when it's cold outside and you've got cold rain on it. So yeah, that's sort of how the mirror goes. This sort of affair just screws on like that. So that just sort of screws on like that with 3 screws. You take that off and then you can get to that. But yeah, I'm amazed it's got heated mirrors. Whether they work or not, I don't even know where the switch for them is. I'll have to Google where the switch is. I ain't got no handbook or anything. There's a switch down near the seat, which I don't quite know what that does either. I've not played about with that a bit. That might be headlamp adjustment. There is some pipes going to the headlamps with like some kind of actuator on, but they don't move. It doesn't do anything. So it may be it's for when you've got weight in the back and it dips up or dips down. It looks like either headlight or speaker or something like that. One looks like speaker, one looks like a headlight symbol, so unless it's a fogs or something, but I'm gonna have to Google what that is. But yeah, just working my way through it. I think tomorrow will be the brake lights, and to do that I've got to take the air filter, the brake light switches. To get to them I've got to take the air filter off. So what I'll probably do is at the same time I've got a new set of leads, even though when it's warmed up now, I think the warm-up regulator is a bit stuffed. It's not working quite right because it takes a bit of starting, it cuts out a bit and then cuts out, and then it ticks over a bit lumpy, and then once it warms up it sounds pretty sweet. I haven't driven it much yet because I've got no brake lights, but it sounds pretty sweet once it's warmed up. So if it's just a bit lumpy when it's cold, but it runs generally okay once it's warmed up, I'm not too fussed about messing with the warm-up regulator, because I believe you've got to get them calibrated. I know you can get rebuild kits, but I think if I rebuild mine, if I end up rebuilding it, I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom so I can adjust it. And then if I put a pressure gauge on, I can adjust the pressure a bit, which I think is sort of a sensible mod, unless you're going to buy one that's sort of already been there's a place in Germany, but I think it's like 350 quid. You've got to send yours off and they'll refurb it for you. But I don't really want to spend another 350 quid unless I have to. So I'll see how it runs. I'll see how it runs when it's warmed up, once I've got the brake lights sorted. The speedo doesn't seem to be working. I can't remember if it was before. I've only driven it up and down my road here in my workshop. People are talking about getting it on the lift, and then there's a wire coming off the sensor on the back of the diff, and that plugs in the boot. So I might have just disturbed that, but you can put like a meter on that, and with it running and driving on a lift with it jacked up, and then you can see if you're getting like a pulsing, like continuity. I think you should be able to see some kind of pulsing, counting, electrical sort of resistance thing going off. So if I can feel that and check the connections there, then it's probably down to the speedo pod, which I believe there's a guy on the internet. You send it off 160 quid and he'll refurb it for you, which I might end up doing. The fuel gauge and the temperature gauge seem to work, but then when I've driven it a bit, they seem to just decide to go right to the top, both of them, and stay there. And you turn it off and turn it on again, and then they seem okay for a bit, which isn't the end of the world, because I've got another aftermarket temperature gauge to put in, and also as long as the fuel gauge tells me what it's doing if I turn it off and on. If it works intermittent, as long as I've got an idea what I've got, and it's not the end of the world, but I'll probably end up doing that at some point. But it's not 100% essential. So yeah, that's where we are. So brake lights. See if I can make the speedo work, and then we're down to sort of running it a bit and getting the emissions set and see what it runs like basically. I think the automatic gearbox ain't got enough oil in. It kind of drives, it feels like it doesn't change gear quite right, and then sometimes it does. It's worse when it's warmer. And looking at my sort of reservoir has got sort of, well, it's got sort of like a box on with that, and then that's the frame. And I think there's like that, I don't think that's whether that's a low setting, but that's halfway up. And when it's switched off, it's above there. It's above the top of that notch. But when it's running and hot, it's sort of down here, just above, which is only just above the pipe where it comes out. So I think what I've got to do is warm it up and get it so the fluid is in between there, which sounds about right. I can only find one picture of it on the internet. It doesn't seem an easy thing to find because I think the early ones are different. But apparently, when you turn it off, it's not unusual for the reservoir to be full to the top because it all drains back down. But as long as when it's hot and it's running, it's in between those two marks and that cutout on the bracket, I think that is right. So I'm going to put some more fluid in it and see what it does then, see if it makes it any better. Because I haven't driven it much, but I don't want to do any damage to it. I think if you put too much in, you can cause a bit of damage as well. But it doesn't seem right that bottom one, whatever that level is, there's like a little, I don't know whether that's the way the bracket's made or it's just a cutout. It's just so you can see the bottom of the bottle, bottom of the reservoir, I don't know. But there's no way that would mark anything, because when it's cold it would be above there, and when it's warm it wouldn't be lower than there. Like I say, the level goes down when it starts running. So maybe it's just that the level's got to be in between those two, which it is. But I don't understand why it would have a cutout in the middle then. It's got like a square cutout in the middle, halfway up the bracket. And that's obviously some kind of marking. So why it would have that? People talking about it being full when it's turned off and it's not full. So I'm thinking maybe put a bit more in it. Maybe set it so it's in the middle when it's hot and it's running. Set it so it's just above there, so it's in that range there, and see what it goes like then. It seems to change up. I've got to make the kickstart work. Sorry, not kickstart. Kick down work. Because the accelerator pedal's not touching it. But the pedal is opening all the way. I think there might be some adjustment on it, so I've got to look at that as well. So little bits and bobs, but we're kind of going in the right direction. I've got all my interior lights working now. So my interior light comes on when it's when the doors are open. They're like got rocker switches. They all kind of worked. It was just the switches on the pillar. You can sort of see. I'll show you quickly. They were just a bit cacked up, so I've cleaned them up and it seems to work fine now. The boot one doesn't. It comes on if you press it to the on position with everything shut. But the boot one, there's no switch on the bottom of the pin for the boot where it should push down and break contact, then it should contact when you open the boot. There's no sensor there. The wires are there, so I might put one on there. But yeah, that's it. So we're making progress. You know, like I say, we call it the Porsche money pit. It's not horrendous compared to modern car standards. You know, you just got to keep ploughing through it. I want to get as much working on it as I can within my reasonable funds I've got. But I want to drive the thing. Worst time of the year to get it on the road, really, in the wet and the ice. But that should be fun. Hopefully I won't wrap it around a lamppost. If you're enjoying the vids, subscribe. Give me some likes. It makes people, you know, gets me up the list and people view and get more views, etc. I enjoy doing the videos, and I like it when people give me comments and say you're enjoying it and tell me what your problems are. Always good to share. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.